Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sushmita Chandra from JNCASR. I'm working on thermoelectric materials under the supervision of Professor Konishko Biswas. And today I'm going to present one of my recent works entitled as Modulation of Electronic Structure and Thermoelectric Properties of Orthorhombic and Cubic SNAC by AgB-IC2 alloying. So before going into the details of my talk, let me talk about give you a brief introduction about thermoelectrics. So as we all aware of the fact that almost 65% of the utilized energy being waste as heat. So if we can even capture 10% of this waste heat into some useful form of electrical energy, it can help to solve the global energy crisis. Thermoelectric materials have a potential to convert this waste heat into electricity in a reversible fashion by utilizing the concept of Seebeck effect. And generally, the performance of a thermoelectric material is given by this dimensionless figure of merit Zt, which is given by this equation. So an ideal thermoelectric material should have high electrical conductivity like that of a metal, high Seebeck coefficient like that of a semiconductor, and low thermal conductivity like that of a glass. So till now, there are several strategies have been adopted to enhance the power factor of a thermoelectric material by optimizing the carrier concentration, or by improving the carrier mobility, or by modulating the band structure. And simultaneously, the thermal conductivity can also be decreased by incorporation of nanostructuring, or by introducing point defects, grain boundaries, etc. So, but the problem with the marketed thermoelectric materials is that most of the materials are based on tellurium. So tellurium is highly toxic, it is costly, as well as it is less abundant in earth crust. So I have started to work on SNAC, which is a cost-effective and eco-friendly material. So at room temperature, SNAC crystallizes in a layered orthorhombic structure and which undergoes a displacive phase transition around 800 Kelvin to the highest symmetric CM-CM phase. So the 5s to lone pair of tin 2 plus try to accommodate in between the layers in such a fashion that it culminates anisotropy in the system, as well as anharmonicity also. And because of the layered nature of the crystal structure, it has highly anisotropic properties along all the three crystallographic directions. So in 2014, single crystals of SNAC have created a sensation in thermoelectric community, as they show record high Zt of 2.6 along crystallographic B direction. And in the subsequent years, N-type single crystals have also shown very high Zt of 2.8 along crystallographic A axis. But the problem with a single crystal is that they are really difficult to synthesis, and thus they cannot be used in practical thermoelectric applications. So I have started to work on polycrystalline SNAC samples, and also in this work I have studied a physical aspect to stabilize the cubic form of SNAC at ambient conditions. So in Dft Calculation, in theoretical studies, it has been predicted that cubic rock salt SNAC can show high Seebeck coefficient and low lattice thermal conductivity. But the problem is that the cubic structure can only be stabilized with a very high pressure of more than 50 gigapascal, which is really difficult to attain in our laboratory scale. So in this work, I have chosen a chemical route to stabilize the cubic rock salt structure of SNAC with alloying with AgB-IC2. So with 30 mole % AgB-IC2 alloying, AgB-IC2 is hexagonal in nature. So when 30 mole % of hexagonal AgB-IC2 has been alloyed with orthorhombic SNAC structure, a cation disordered cubic rock salt phase has been stabilized at ambient condition, which has been further verified from this powder X-ray diffraction studies. So here the key point is that the solid solution mixing of SNAC with AgB-IC2 enhances the configurational entropy of the system, and thus introducing cationic disorder at the tin position, and thus stabilizing this rock salt structure. Further, with the DSC and TGA analysis, we could able to propose a phase diagram of SNAC AgB-IC2 system, which is very rare with respect to other thermoelectric systems. So coming to the synthesis part, so these samples are synthesized by solid state melting reaction. So, and by melting the starting materials at 950 degrees centigrade, and from the ingots have been crushed to powders, and the powder samples has been sintered to prepare dense pellet at 450 degrees centigrade and 50 megapascal pressure. So as I have mentioned earlier, that it is it shows SNSE shows anisotropic properties. So the pellets has been cut and polished in different shapes, different our desired shapes to measure the further thermoelectric properties. So now I have studied the band gap of these materials, and I have seen that with the increasing in the AgBiSO2 concentration, there is a monotonic decrease in the band gap, and suddenly upon 30 mole% of AgBiSO2 alloy, the band gap closes almost like it closes to zero. So this is because of the increase in the chemical pressure, which is again originating from the sharp decrease in the unit cell volume. Next, to get further insights about the structure and the what are the things happening, we have done Dft calculation in collaboration with Professor Wagmare's group at JNCASR, and it has been shown that the pristine cubic SNSE is a semiconductor and has a theoretical band gap of 0.12 electron volt. And from the zero topological index and mirror Chern number calculation, it has been predicted to be a topological crystalline insulator. Whereas for the 30 mole% alloyed cubic SNSE system, it is a semi-metallic, it shows a semi-metallic band structure and does not contain any topological properties. Next, we have measured the thermoelectric properties. First, I'll come to the electrical transport properties. So with respect to the pristine sample, both the AgBiSO2 alloyed orthorhombic and cubic sample shows higher electrical conductivity at room temperature, which can be attributed due to the enhancement in the carrier concentration as compared to the pristine SNSE. And one interesting fact that we we have observed is that this cubic AgBiSO2 alloyed sample shows negative CV coefficient at room temperature, which again tells that electrons are the majority carrier in the system. So by combining these two results, we have got a very high, a good power factor of around 7.5 microwatt per centimeter Kelvin square for this orthorhombic AgBiSO2 alloyed system. Further, when I have measured the thermal properties, so we have seen this orthorhombic AgBiSO2 alloyed system shows very low K lattice of 0.19 watt per meter Kelvin at 773 Kelvin, which can be attributed due to the enhanced phonon scattering when to the point defects and solid solution of SNSE AgBiSO2. This upturn around the 773 Kelvin denotes the phase transition of SNSE from PNMA to CMCM. On the other hand, if we look at the thermal conductivity of the cubic AgBiSO2 alloyed system, it is quite higher as compared to the pristine and the orthorhombic SNSE AgBiSO2 alloyed system, which can be due to the destruction of the layered crystal structure of SNSE. So by combining these results, we have achieved a very high ZT of 1.3 in this AgBiSO2, 22% AgBiSO2 alloyed orthorhombic SNSE system, which is reproducible and reversible for both heating and cooling cycles. So in conclusion, I could able to stabilize the cubic rock salt structure of SNSE with AgBiSO2 alloying. This cubic structure shows semi-metallic N-type conduction at room temperature. And we have obtained a peak ZT value of 1.3 at 823 Kelvin for the P-type polycrystalline orthorhombic sample. So I'd like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to present my work in such a prestigious platform. I'd like to acknowledge my research supervisor, Professor Konishko Biswas, for guiding me throughout my research trajectory. I'd like to thank Professor Umesh Wagmare and Ms. Ragya Arora for carrying out the scientific discussions and for the theoretical calculations. JNCASR and ACRB for the funding, and my lab mates and friends of JNCASR. Thank you. I'll be happy to take questions.
Hi, Sushmita. Is this effect reversible for your material?
Okay. Yeah, I didn't get you.
So is this effect reversible for your material?
Yeah, the properties, like all the thermoelectric properties, like the electrical conductivity, CV coefficient, everything, like they are quite reversible. That's why in the ZT value, in the ZT plot, which I have shown, that you can see the reversibility.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
To determine,
Yes, I have not shown here, but actually, so I have done the Rydville refinement for this 22 mole % Ag-base-2 alloyed sample. So they are going to the teen position. The silver and bismuth are going to the teen position, and for the cubic sample also I have done. So that is also we can see that it is going to the cationic teen position.
No, my question was regarding the thermal conductivity in the cubic phase. What's the process? Yeah, the cubic, it seems that with increasing temperature, it increases. That shouldn't be the case, right? I understand the other two are decreasing because of phonon.
Yeah, so actually here the layered crystal structure is being destroyed for the cubic sample. It is no longer like why the phonon damping is happening in the case of orthorhombic system, because of the layer and teen 5s2 lone pair, the phonons are getting damped. But because here like teen, silver, bismuth are occupying the same cationic position and it's a disordered structure, so we don't have that sort of like anharmonicity. So here the phonon scattering is not that much effective. So electrical thermal conductivity is playing the major role.
Yeah, but then, I mean, how can thermal conductivity
Like, so electrical thermal conductivity can increase, sir, because sigma, like according to the Wiedemann-Franz law, like sigma is proportional to K electrical. So, but if you look at the lattice thermal conductivity, so the lattice part is not actually increasing, it's almost constant. So we cannot say from the total thermal conductivity, but if you look at the lattice contribution, it is not increasing, it is almost like constant. So yes, for the total. These are not metal. This is cubic is semiconductor, like can be the thing. Yeah.
There are no more questions. Let's thank the speaker one more time.